How's it going, Ram Nation? This is Ryan Keating, SID at Texas Wesleyan. Alongside me, my colleague Cameron Irvine, and a very special guest with us today, head coach of the Texas Wesleyan Rams football team, Coach Joe Prud'Homme.
Yes.
Coach Joe Prud'Homme is just finished his third season as the head coach in 2019. In February 2016, he was tasked with building a brand new football program at Texas Wesleyan. A program that had been in hiatus since before, or as when World War II broke out in 1945. The team recorded its first on-field victory in a 36-7 win over Texas College last season, and first team, in the 2018 season. First team All SAC selections Desmond Nisby and Michael Miller headlined that group, as well as 17 all-conference selections and 16 Rams receiving academic notoriety, including NAIA scholar athlete Gary Jones. In 2019, we had 8 all-conference selections, which brings Prud'Homme's total up to now 28 all-conference selections in 3 seasons, and 27 academic all-conference selections, 3 SAC scholar athletes. Prud'Homme compiled an extremely successful coaching career over 27 seasons in the Texas high school football ranks, and he brings a wealth of knowledge of coaching experience to Texas Wesleyan. He came to the Rams from nearby Nolan Catholic High School, where he led the Vikings to 11 appearances in the TAPS 5A state finals and 7 state championships in 24 seasons. At Nolan Catholic, he compiled a record of 209, 105, and 2, with a playoff record of 38, 15, and 1. He's won, countless Coach of the Year awards. We won't get into them all because it'd probably take up the whole time we have. I'm sure you probably could fill my whole office with all of your coaching awards. But here he is today with us, Coach Joe. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate it being on, and it's good to see you guys. Good to see some faces.
Yeah, really. It's been kind of hard being away from the group. Just kind of, we don't get to see each other every day, but we walk past each other, occasionally and catch up a little bit. We're all busy, but this is definitely different. So going into that, what's your opinion of what you think athletics and maybe football specifically will look like when we try to resume our normal lives?
That's the $64,000 question right now. Nobody really knows. For public health, you're looking at face mask. How are you going to put a face mask on a football player when he's trying to play? And then you have heat issues and other issues that are going to go on. I think what's going to end up happening is there's going to be a lot less fans to start out. I think that's going to be the first place they hit. It's going to come down to how we handle quarantining positive tests. And there's going to have to be some sort of common sense come around at some point once the virus is under control, once we know more about it, once we have more data. The travel part is the one that you're always together in such tight quarters when you're traveling. That's the part to me that always is going to pose the most risk. But like I told y'all off camera a little earlier, I think the virus has been here for a while. I think that it's been here probably since late fall, early winter. There's no telling how many people already have had it, how many antibodies are built up. It's just a lot going on, and what it's going to end up looking like, I don't know. I think there'll be a lot more precautions as far as taking people's temperature, trying to be proactive. We've always been really good at that. Miss D and our training staff have been outstanding. As soon as a kid's sick, man, they're jerked out. They're quarantined immediately. We did that back in January, and when we had, we thought some cases of virus that were a little strange. But to what it's going to look like, I think it's going to be come back slowly. But I can't imagine that we won't have some sort of football and some sort of athletic landscape.
Sure, I totally agree, and a lot of that too or a lot of fears will probably subside when we find maybe a treatment for the virus itself. Let's go back to 2019, a season that saw some improvement, but the overall feel of the season, from my perspective, is almost every single game was incredibly exciting. A triple overtime win against Sagu at home. Some very, very close losses. 61-24 blowout against Texas College on homecoming, which kind of felt like a coming out game or maybe a breakthrough game. Talk about the season and maybe that game in particular, just about what improvements you saw.
I think that we got a lot better as far as just execution of what we're doing and trying an understanding of our scheme. I thought the offense was dynamite. I mean, the only thing I had was we had too many turnovers in the red zone, maybe give up a few less sacks, maybe go ahead and be able to sustain drives a little bit better. Defensively, we took some steps backwards, but the last 3 games of the season, when you look at it, we did a really good job of executing the way we wanted to. But yeah, it was a coming out party. We're explosive. There's no question about it. And we're going to put you on the edge of the seat. A lot of it's our own doing at times because we'll make some great plays and then we screw up and make some bad plays and make it an up and down contest. I think as we grow up and mature as a football team, I think you're going to see a whole lot better production. I think you'll see a lot more efficiencies emerge, not only in any one dimension. I think it'll be in all of them. And I think the defense will complement the offense a little bit more. And the special teams, we had to improve. We had a bad year on special teams, and we all know that. We just didn't field the ball well enough. We made some mistakes there. But when we did make good plays on special teams, they were touchdowns and big plays. And, I feel like we've come a long way. And like you said, every game was close. I mean, we were one score away in about 3 or 4 of them. Felt like we should have won those. That's a big difference between 3-7 and 7-3. We were close. I mean, it's about 6 or 7 plays that we looked at. You flip the outcome of those, it's a totally different looking record.
Yeah, you talked about the explosive offense, and one of the guys responsible for a lot of that was our first NAIA All-American since coming back to playing football, in Brandon Rolfe. Talk about, as a sophomore, first of all, first NAIA All-American for the program, and only one of 3 sophomores on that NAIA All-American list, which that if you look at that NAIA All-American list, there's some very dynamic, explosive players. What potential do you see in the Red Ranger, Brandon Rolfe?
The Red Ranger is something else, man. He works his tail off. He has such confidence. He has a bravado about him that serves him well. He's not arrogant by any stretch, but he just has a confidence that when the ball's in the air, it's his ball, and he's going to go get it. He doesn't believe there's anybody that can run with him. He honestly feels that way. And when you watch him get after it, there's times nobody can touch him. His potential is high. And to come from a walk-on to where he is now as an All-American, honorable mention guy, he is so explosive, man. He could take the 3-yard play and go at 85, 90, just in a second. But we feed off of him. He encourages everybody, and he's always believing, and he's one of those guys that I'm really, really glad is on our side.
Coach, talk about what type of culture you try to build in your program.
We're trying to build a culture of long-term vision of where you're going to be 10 years from now. That may sound a little strange for a college program, but I think it's real important that our guys have an understanding they're going to school, but to keep your eye on the future all the time, and that the decisions you make now impact everything you do. There's that butterfly effect that always happens. That little decision you make can really cost you down the road or pay off for you big time down the road. As far as within the football ranks of it, I look at our culture as, I believe in collective greatness. I don't believe in individual greatness. Michael Jordan is one that you could argue was that guy. LeBron was that individual great guy. But they always had great chemistry, and they always had a collective greatness about them. I feel like that what we put together, when they feed off each other and they all fit together so well, the parts going in may look pretty good, put on the outside, and the end product looks awesome, just because of the way they're in sync and the way they feed off each other, the way they complement each other. And that's what we're getting to right now, is that the team is always first. I mean, that sounds trite. That always sounds, trivial to a lot of people. But if it doesn't help our university first, and then our football team, and then that particular individual group of offense or defense or player. That's kind of the order we go from university backwards, or down to the individual. Once we have that all in sight, that whatever decision we make has to benefit in that order, then it pays off for us. It builds us. It builds a program. When you have great leadership, you don't need the coaches around. You need them to take care of themselves and to know what it is that what it looks like, and that is to do everything right all the time. One of my pet peeves I can't stand, I may be getting down the list a little bit, is I don't like the same mistake twice. I don't like laziness. I cannot stand laziness, and I can't stand selfishness. Those three drive me out of my mind. It's okay to make a mistake once or even twice, but don't continually do the same thing. Then you're playing. Then it doesn't matter to you. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Is I try to give them the opportunity to play. I don't like robots. I like football players. I don't have any problem with their individuality coming out when it helps. And Rolf is a great example of that. I mean, he can't play as a robot. He has to have that individualism to a certain degree, and his expression, man, just pays off big time. And that's for a lot of our guys. You know, your Collier Ricks, your Cody Pettits, your Chance, all those guys. That's just kind of the way I think it works.
Coach, take us on the field, in the locker room, on the bus, in the community, just for a moment. How would you describe your favorite moment on the field and off the field since you took the job at Texas Wesleyan?
Oh, I would say that y'all have already referenced the Texas College game on the field. It was really great to see them, just play free, wild. I mean, it just really going at it with a lot of intensity, a lot of emotion. They felt it. They executed that day for the most part, and just really put a big number up. Off the field, man, there's a ton of things that I've seen that I've been proud of. The Arizona Christian coming in and us working together on the giving back to the community, that was a huge, huge event. And just to see the way our guys interact and the way they do community service, it's really kind of chokes you up a little bit at times to see them grow from when they get here. And some of them had that they're not truly entitled, but there's just a general selfishness in a generation there that is about me, and to see them always looking out for each other, opening doors for other people, helping other people out. I think we're reaching them that they're going to be men that give back. And so to see, I would say the Arizona Christian game, I would say the game where we should have beaten Ottawa was really big on the field because we grew up in a big way that day. And then the Texas College when we just handled it and not giving up in the Sagu game when we went to triple overtime. Those were, there was a lot of chances to really blow that one and we never did. So I was really proud of them for that.
Coach, you have a ton of assistant coaches, and I would describe last season as a wild and crazy ride. Which one of your assistant coaches personifies wild and crazy ride, and which assistant coach may be the opposite of that?
Oh, that's easy. The offensive coordinator is the wild and crazy ride of up and down. We'll be stalling, and he's just like, we got to get going. And then we have a one-play drive score. Another one-play drive score, and then come back and we struggle and we turn the ball. Then we have another one-play drive or two-play drive and score. So Kyle is very much of the roller coaster guy, but he's really leveling out, and I really love the way his maturation, his development as a coordinator and as a coach is coming along. He's very talented, very bright. And then Duckworth is the exact opposite as far as the stick to it, the stoic. But he holds him accountable. He may be stoic on the field at times. He's also very animated when he comes alive. But he just wants those simple things done. Don't even try to go to B when you hadn't mastered A. If we hadn't done B, we can't quite go to C. But he is one of that. He's kind of like that rock that that he will them to play the way he wants them to play. But he's kind of the epitome of that steadiness. And then Kyle's the one that's a roller coaster. So it makes for some exciting ball games. I'll say that.
We talk a lot with coaches about what makes a winner, but from your perspective, being from building such a successful high school program and going up to an NAIA level, do you ever take a second to sit back and sort of marvel just how, even though on the grand scheme of things, there's a ton of levels of football, and maybe those two are, somewhere in the middle of those, NFL to Pee Wee. Do you ever sit back and marvel about, even though the levels are somewhere in the same realm, just how different and how difficult it might be to win or lose games, just from that one jump up?
Oh yeah, there's no question. You can do everything right and still lose because of the athletes you're facing at times. You know, you're in the right coverage, and the guy's 6'3" and he has a 40-inch vertical and just out jumps two guys for the ball. You know, I wasn't used to that as much. But there is a jump. There's a big jump. The coaching is really, really strong at times, or almost every program. But the level of athlete and the things that have to be done leading up to the game, the travel that's involved, the preparation, all the different things that go into it, there's a significant jump. And in talking to D3 coaches, D2 coaches, NAIA is not that different in a lot of ways. They may have some better facilities, they may have some better things in place as far as that, but the actual prep work and the tightness of it and competitiveness of it and the athleticism everybody faces, man, it's just off the chain.
Coach, talk us through a little bit of how you get maybe a high school senior transfer from first contact onto the field or onto the practice field and into the classroom. What is your recruiting process?
You know, basically we ask that first question, where you want to be in 10 years. That to me is really, really important, that they're serious about, being a true student athlete. Because when you get a guy who's nothing but about NFL, that's a real low bar. I mean, that's a really high, I should say high bar, low percentage chance of making it. So you want them to have a holistic look at where they want to be, where they want to go. We build the relationships with them. We want to make sure that after we vet them through their coaches, their people they know, their parents a lot of times, you get a feel of, are they our type of guy? Are they going to fit in our culture? Are they going to be more about the team, or are they going to be selfish and prima donnas and about themselves? Weed that out. The prima donnas, weed them out. The guys that are confused about where they really would fall in a system, and then start to get them through the process of getting on campus, if it's possible, to meet the players, to know the staff, to have an idea of what their parents' expectations are. Go from there to, then you got to get them, when they do commit, and you get them to commit, to see what it is we have to offer, and then go from there to the actual getting them through Play NAIA, getting them to a number that works for them, getting them, through all the paperwork and the physicals, and there's about 6 hoops that we have to jump through to get them from there to where we actually can get them on the field and get some work done.
So during that process, what do you see, or what do you tell prospective student athletes as what do you see as Texas Wesleyan's competitive advantage? How do you sell Texas Wesleyan?
Oh, I think our location, I think our academics are super strong. I think the small classrooms, and that you're in front of a professor every day and not graduate assistants or TAs is big. And that's why I sell them on where you're going to be in 10 years, because you have to build some networks when you're in college in order to get hired. Mm-hmm. It's not like everybody's waiting on you to graduate to get your degree and say, oh, come to us, we're so glad you're finally out. You got to build that. You got to build those career contacts. And I think that, coupled with the academic piece, coupled with where we're located, and I have a great coaching staff. I mean, I tell recruits all the time, I would love for my son to play for these men. And that's how I kind of gauge it, is that if it's something that I would do with my own kids, my kids that are mine, then that's a great thing. There's coaches I've met that I would no way I'd let my kids play for them. Big time D1 guys, and some D2s and even some NAIAs. And to me, it's real important that they understand that we're going to put your career before our careers. And there's 2 types of coaches in this world. There's those that are transactional and those that are transformational. I won't have a transactional coach on my staff who's going to use kids for their own careers. And there's a whole lot of that in our industry, unfortunately. There's also a lot of transformational coaches. We want them to come in and tell them that, look, we want to see where you're going to be, and we want to get you to as much of your potential as a man as we can. not just as a student, not just as an athlete, but as a man, so that when you walk out of here, you know how to take care of the little things, how to fight for your family, how to represent yourself and to overcome some tough situations.
Coach, you scheduled Houston Baptist last year, and they're on the schedule again this year. Hopefully, we'll be able to play in September and not have to move that date at all. But what do you see as the value of playing a NCAA D1 division or D1 school?
Well, number one, it helps your budget line, which is great. But probably even more important is to play a team of that caliber and the speed. Their scheme is so good and their coaching staff is so strong. But when you play guys that are at that level, everybody else looks a little slower, not quite as big when you get into conference play. Just because they have that many scholarships and that many athletes that are full ride kids, to me, it's getting a chance that you play somebody really tough early on, it pays off. And I think it really helped us going into Ottawa, big time, that we had played a team of that caliber and we knew we could compete. We just, we did so many bad things in that game. And once they took advantage of it, it was over. But we kind of expected that they were, really, really good. But I think it toughens you up for your conference schedule, big time.
Coach, as a sports junkie, I'm very critical of sports movies and TV shows. Sometimes it all seems pretty hokey, and I'm sure you probably feel that tenfold actually being kind of in the trenches. So I have to ask, what is your most highly recommended football, either movie or TV show that you've ever seen and thought, man, that's really something?
Oh, wow. I guess I should have thought about that one. That's a tough one. I love Remember the Titans, and I know a lot of people think it's hokey, but to do what Coach Boone did and what he went through, and I've met Coach Boone. Actually, Coach Murphy's dad brought him by a practice when I was at Nolan, and Coach Murphy was playing for me, and he came by, and he's short, man. He's shorter than I am, and I am not a tall drink of water by any stretch. So I got to meet him, and I was really impressed with him. And he just told Mr. Murphy, David's dad, he said, I don't want to go to the hotel and do what? Was your kid practicing? Is he play football? He said, yeah. So he came by and just showed up unannounced at our practice. And that probably skews it a lot for me as far as that. But, just the social part that he had to deal with, everybody was against him, the racism he had to face, and that the one thing that united everybody was football and a common purpose. So that's probably, I would have to say, one of my all-time favorites. And, of course, this from entertainment value, you can't beat The Replacements. The Replacements, to me, are the funniest shows. And whenever things are kind of drab, man, I like to dust off that. And I know y'all probably don't have them, but a DVD and throw it in and watch it. Because that, to me, is one of the funniest and best shows, too.
As a follow-up, how did Denzel do with Boone?
Did well. He's bigger than him. He's much bigger than Coach Boone. But as far as mannerisms and as far as accent, he crushed it. He crushed it.
Sorry, Ryan, you have a follow?
No, that's okay. No. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. Coach, you talk a lot about the 10-year plan, the importance of, being in the classroom. What was something that you enjoyed during school? What was a subject or a class that you really enjoyed?
When I was in college, you talking about?
College or younger?
Or younger. I would say it's kind of crazy, but I loved physics, but I hated algebra, hated trigonometry, but physics made a lot of sense to me as far as, just the force applications and the way things worked. I like that a lot, but really I think my favorite is political science and history. That was what I really got into, especially history.
I know it's a little off script, Coach, but I've always been fascinated at how football players can memorize plays and the sheer number of plays in the playbook. What's the size of your playbook, and how long would you say it takes a student to really master, what they're trying to do and what their job is?
Our playbook is not that big. Coach Cox makes it a point to keep it small. He is a Mike Leach disciple, so he believes in everything fitting on one page. That's what he'll tell you, but it doesn't fit on one page. It fits on several pages. Coach Duckworth has a lot of different things going on. Coach Murphy has a lot going on in the playbooks. It's just really, there's a rule of three. Anybody can remember three things, right? But as soon as you get to four, you start to stutter and forget. I mean, that's just how it is. So we try to keep everything in groups of three. Obviously formation, motion, play, and everybody has their own little part to pick up. In our offense, our center has to be really smart, has to be able to help out, make all the calls. He has to identify where zero is. And then you have the quarterback has to help call protections and do things of that nature, free safety. There's a lot of moving parts, but it just takes rote repetition, man. I mean, it takes repetition. And you got to know which kids you can't overload, and you got to know which kids you can put a lot more on. Some kids, man, can eat it up and just fly down the road. Other kids, you just got to give them a few things to do. And if they're really athletic and good at it, then that's where they're going to excel. Surprisingly, offensive linemen are really bright because they got to make so many calls. Everybody wants to talk about the big, dumb athlete. That is not the case at all. The offensive linemen, you hear their conversations, they're high level, man. When they're talking, a lot of times, and I'm not talking about just football. You ought to hear them talk politics, history, just things in general. They're big on butterfly effect as well, little things that could change everything. But yeah, it's a lot of memorization, but it's a lot of repetition. You got to have a lot of repetition. Some guys can get it visually. Some guys they're what you call practice players. They got to do it and do it and do it. So,
Coach, we talked to wrestling coach Ray Bedford, who was just hired this year, brand new program, just like football. We were talking a little bit about how wrestling and football, especially I guess in linemen, can help out. Talk a little bit about how you see these two programs being mutually beneficial to each other.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of Garland's, man. What he's done and the way he's put things together and just his no nonsense of going about things. I'm a huge fan of his, and we're already sharing some athletes. He's a great recruiter, and wrestling and football are a great crossover, man. I mean, they complement each other very, very well. Wrestlers have to be in great condition. They got to know how to use their hands. They got to know how to use their bodies. They're very disciplined in their weight and how they take care of themselves, and their hand placement, the way they move. It's just a natural fit, and they're tough. I mean, you want that toughness, and it's been paying off for us primarily on defensive guys. We've been getting some linebackers from them, and some D linemen looks like they're going to come down the pipe. But it's a great crossover sport, and they're so disciplined. To be a wrestler and a football player and be strong in the classroom, man, those are the kind of guys you want to put all around the backbone of your program. And he's brought us some great kids out of Oklahoma, a couple out of Houston. It's going to be some great synergy between the two programs.
Coach, did you play more than one sport growing up? What was one of your favorite memories from your playing days?
Man, I played it all. I played football, baseball, basketball. They had me go up because I went to a small high school. I had to go over and do the track thing. Hated it. Hated track. I did long jump, broad jump. I did a little bit of sprints. Playing days. Probably. I loved baseball. I was a really good baseball player. But also my senior year, I played quarterback, free safety. And then I was a right fielder, cleanup hitter. And I loved coming downhill as a free safety. Loved coming downhill because a lot of times people run on the option at that time. And so, man, I got to hit a lot of pitch men in my day because we had a lot of boom calls where I could either come inside, hit quarterback, or fill the alley on the pitch man. And that was, I loved playing defense. I really did. Offensively, we were good, but I really enjoyed the defensive freedom because I got to make all the calls on defense all the time.
All right, this is one of my favorite questions we've been asking Texas Wesleyan coaches. If you could switch jobs with any other Texas Wesleyan coach for a week, which sport would you choose and why?
Wow. I guess I would trade with probably Milliken. I mean, to be a golf coach and just do that for a week, that would be great. Travel with them to Puerto Rico or Hawaii or wherever they go. I mean, I think that would be a lot of fun. That's just sheer fun and that part of it. I think for the intensity of it, I'd love to be in Shingleton's shoes at the national championship, just for the sheer adrenaline rushes that he's going through and what he's got going on. Not that I would technically want to coach what he's doing, because I think that's intense and a lot on the fly. I kind of like the fact that we can take a little break, call a play, take a break, call another play, whereas he's got stuff going on and it's just, it can snowball one way or the other, and you just got to make sure you push the snowball the right direction.
Well, I'll have to say this. You have gone with the consensus. About 90% of coaches want to be golf coaches. So Kevin Milliken and Sean Hensley and Bobby Cornett, they have the dream job.
I've done golf coaching. I did it at Nolan, and man, it was awesome. It was great because they had all their swing doctors and their putting coaches, and my job was to just tell them, hey man, nothing more than 2-putt, and don't screw up on the scorecard. And I'll catch y'all when it's over. So it was fun.
Coach, what do you see as the best and worst aspects of operating in the NAIA?
Best aspects is probably the freedoms that we have as far as recruiting. We're not limited to the periods and things of that nature. The overall probably frustrating or weakness part, or part that's not as good, is I don't believe there's even enforcement across all NAIA. As far as I think there's a lot of schools that do exactly whatever they want. I think that's kind of frustrating, knowing that they do. That part of it's kind of drag. I would say the other thing is the overall facility piece. It'd be great if we had better facilities across NAIA. But as far as the competition and the level of it, that's to me is a highlight. And I think there's a lot of players that end up in NAIA that are high quality athletes and a lot of great students. So that part of the NAIA I think is really good. But the freedom, I would say, as far as the recruiting piece, is probably the best.
I definitely agree with you on the athlete side. I think just because it's not NCAA, people automatically assume that the talent level isn't there, the competition isn't there. But I would totally disagree with that. Watching sports in the NAIA for 10 plus years, you can definitely tell there's talent, there's great competition and exciting games to be played in the NAIA.
Oh yeah.
All right, Coach, here's another fun one for you. You're quarantined with 3 other Texas Wesleyan faculty or staff. I know you've only been on campus for 3 years, but who would those individuals be?
Oh man.
Just think back to all those wonderful staff meetings.
Yeah. So I guess they couldn't be on my coaching staff. Do they have to get off my coaching staff? Or?
Well, some of the coaches have picked their assistants.
Big coaching staff. It's kind of not fair.
I would say probably Milliken would be one. I would say Dwayne Taylor. Oh God, dang man! Don't tell him how long we'd be quarantined with those two. Third, who would be third? I would say probably Bobby.
Yeah,
I'd say Bobby. I could spend months just listening to Bobby and just learning, man, his stories and where he's been and what he's done. That dude is an institution all to himself. Just the way he's an institution. There's no other way to say it. He's Hall of Fame. I mean, yep. I think that'd be a fun group to hang out with.
It's a pretty good group. Dwayne, you mentioned Dwayne Taylor. Dwayne Taylor is our wide receivers and recruiting coordinator for Texas Wesleyan football. Very highly entertaining guy to spend time with.
Yes, absolutely. I wouldn't have to speak at all. I could just listen and learn a lot from those 3.
Coach, describe a moment where you said, "God, I love my job."
Happens a lot. It happens a lot. Like when I see these guys graduate, or I see them do something that I know is going to take them to the next level as people. Donovan Isom having a 3.8 in grad school. When he barely got in, he had come in on probationary status and just destroyed it. Did great. That's something to see. Some of my coaches get their aha moments. Like, oh, they get it, and to see their growth. And that's what does it for me. It's about the relationships to me more than anything else that I love about my job. I could never live inside. I could never be inside as a worker and employee. I love being out with my guys. I love watching people grow up. I love watching them go from coming in maybe a little unsure, a little insecure, to watching them graduate or finish at the end, and they're just they're man ready to go. And that type of thing is what keeps me rolling.
What's your favorite football play when executed?
Oh, I would say outside of the annexation of Puerto Rico, I would say probably some of our trick plays we've run with the reverse passes or just the fade ball when we just throw a 90 and it's just there's roll fall just running down the sideline by himself, or Rick's just getting up over and making a one-handed grab. Those are pretty spectacular to watch. But if it was just a regular football play that's executed perfectly, it's power, and we don't run much power because we're more wide open. I like to see that guard kick out and tackle pull up in there, and I mean that's good old football to me.
It's beautiful when it's executed properly.
Oh man, it's pretty. It's pretty.
When you're not doing football, what are you doing?
Man, I love golf. I think that's probably obvious from my earlier answers. I love to play golf. I love to spend time with my family when I can. I have a couple dogs I work with at home. That's about it, man. I like to cook. Trying to diet, that ain't working, but I like to cook a lot. So that's about it, man. I read quite a bit when I get a chance, but you get so consumed in what you do football-wise that it's kind of tough to have hobbies. But I'd say golf and fishing are the two that I like to do. And I've snuck off a few times with Tyler to see my dad, check on him. He's 83 years old. He's doing great. He's still a practicing surgeon for working full time. So I go and see him, and he's got a place with cattle, and I'll go and we fished a little bit, and that's been great to get to spend some time with him.
Very cool. You talked about being a cook or liking to cook. If you have an in-home chef for one day, what are you requesting for breakfast, lunch, and dinner?
Oh, so you're not going to cut out the snacks, huh? So we'll go Point St. George in the morning, eggs. That's poached eggs on with a crab meat sauce, cream sauce, really, really good. Probably some hash brown potatoes with it, and asparagus, and a little bit of fruit for breakfast. Lunch, I would go with some sort of blackened fish with crawfish etouffee on top with dirty rice. Do a salad, maybe a little bit of a salad on the side, and some garlic cheese grits to go with that. Dinner would probably be a 10-ounce filet, probably a filet Oscar with a brown sauce and probably some sort of seafood on it, probably some shrimp. And then on the side of that, probably sweet potatoes and some sort of salad or some sort of throw something green on it with it. Probably cream spinach. Go with cream spinach with it.
Wow.
That would be quite a day. I'd need a few days to recover from it. My taste buds would be lit up for about a week.
My goodness.
It'd be great.
Well, Coach, are you on social media at all? How can recruits get a hold of you?
Yeah, they're on social. They're hitting me on social media, and it's Coach JP Texas West. I've been talking to him on Twitter. Is the one social media that I do. Got a lot of them that email me through the website. That's main two ways I'm talking to them. Been doing a lot of that. That's been most of my time is taken with that. Social media and the emailing and just back and forth with those guys.
And so you can find all of that information on ramsports.net. Go to football and coaching staff, and you'll see all of Coach Prud'Homme's staff and their contact info there. Coach, it's been an honor talking to you. So great. Always good to talk to you. Wish we could have been in person, but with the circumstances, I think we did okay.
No, I really appreciate seeing you guys, man, and thanks for having me on. And the honor goes both ways, and hopefully we'll be able to do our Texas Day Brazil deal this fall, and that was really cool. And hopefully we'll be able to get that done again. And I think Marshall will work with us again, so we'll get something lined out. But you guys take care, and I appreciate you spending some time with me.
That's Coach Joe Prud'Homme, head football coach at Texas Wesleyan. For Ryan Keating, Cameron Irvine, here's another edition of RamSports.net Ram Talk. We'll see you next time.